everybody. It's commute time. So this is the first day back from Thanksgiving break. Tuesday, December 2nd, and whoa, I can honestly say that I was really out of frame for something. But no, seriously, like I think I had probably like the best break in a really long time because I didn't have to do much of anything. Like my mom bought most of the food that we had for Thanksgiving this year. So I really didn't have to do much of anything in the way of cooking. And oh crap, it's snowing. Well, cool. But yeah, so I didn't have to do much in the way of cooking. And I didn't have to really clean much either because since my mom bought most of the food, we didn't have like weeks of leftovers left. Like we still got some turkey left, and I think we still got some mashed potatoes and gravy left, but there were like a lot of other side dishes that we had that are just completely gone now. We still got a whole apple pie left, and we still got half a cheesecake left, but those things are steadily being taken care of by me mostly. I feel like such a fat ass. Like I really didn't eat that much on Thanksgiving itself. Like I had like one plate of food and like a glass of wine. But since I've had in the days after Thanksgiving, I've had like 4 or 5 glasses of wine and like half of a cheesecake and like half of another pie. It's been kind of dumb. And pie, I mean sweet potato pie. My grandma makes like 14 sweet potato pies every Thanksgiving and distributes them to the families. So I think we got like 2 of them, maybe 3 of them. I can't really remember, but I know I ate like half of one of them. She uses one per person, but I think my stepdad just kind of overstepped and just ate some of everybody's pie. So like whatever. And see what else did I do this Thanksgiving break? Well, I really dove into Borderlands. I guess it's just that simple. Everybody on the channel should know about that. If you've been watching, you know I got 7 episodes of Borderlands, the pre-sequel, like an hour. I was really surprised. Like it felt a whole lot longer as I was playing, but it's really only like an hour and a half worth of footage. And that's broken up between 2 different days of gameplay. But that's really like the first person shooter that I really dove into since the last Borderlands. Since the first Borderlands. I beat the first Borderlands, and that was only because my friend was bugging me to play it with him like co-op on the PS3. So first of all, that's the only reason why I bought the game. The only reason why I bought the game was to play co-op because another guy wanted me to play co-op with him. And the only reason why I like slugged through any of the game was because it was a co-op. This time it's a little different because I don't know, like it was like I already had the code for it on my NVIDIA card. Well, not on the card, but like when I got the card, they sent me like a little paper card with the code on it, and I was just like, why wouldn't I download this? And apparently it's like a super NVIDIA optimized game, so like it actually runs at like 190 frames per second on my rig, which is like super sweet. So like it feels nice for a game to run that good without needing drivers. I mean like without needing patches and stuff. Like I never really played a whole lot of first-person shooters before Borderlands, because like I think with the exception of the first Borderlands, the only first-person shooter that I beat ever is was the name of that thing? Resistance 2? The game where it was like the 50s and aliens were invading. That game for the PlayStation 3. It was a PlayStation 3 exclusive, kind of Sony's answer to Halo, which it just wasn't. It wasn't good enough. It was a good game. Like, it had a really good aesthetic. It had decent gunplay, I guess. I'm not really like an expert on it because I don't play shooters that much. But as far as first-person shooter goes, it felt like it was okay. But it wasn't like perfect by any means. And when you have Halo, the first Halo game to compete with, you need to be like damn perfect. So but I got it for some, like, it was like part of some bundle pack. I like wanted other things, and I got other things with it. And when I beat those things, Resistance 2 was just left over. I had never played the first one, so I played it. It was like my first person shooter. I remember like getting used to aiming with a analog stick and stuff, which I had never played a first person shooter on a PC before either. Before then. So I was really getting used to like aiming with an analog stick for the first time ever, and like it was awful because before that I really only played like action platformers, action RPGs, JRPGs, like reaching for another genre here. That's pretty much it. Like, I played, I guess if I like started back with like the first games I ever played, oh my god, there's just so much traffic today. This is dumb. I'm not taking the highway today. But I think if I went back to like the first games I ever played, I can never remember myself playing. It was like Super Mario Brothers, because that was like my mom's favorite game. She had the original NES, and she got herself the Super NES. So I had like a decent amount of Nintendo games, and those were all hers. Like, we had like Donkey Kong, Super Mario Brothers, like, and the subsequent Super Mario Brothers. I think we had like Super Mario World 3, and then it was that Super Mario game that was 1, 2, and 3, like all together. Like, we had those. Oh, fighting games. There we go. Yeah, because also on the Super Nintendo, I had Mortal Kombat 3 Ultimate. And like, I know this is like really out of order because we were like a poorer family, because my mom was still single at the time. So like, I didn't, like, the Super Nintendo came out before I was born. It came out in like, what, 89 or something? Like, I was born in 91. I'm pretty sure Super Nintendo came out before I was born, or like very shortly after I was born. But we didn't get a Super Nintendo until I was like maybe 5 or 6. And then even further after that, my mom got me a Sega Genesis. And I know that the Sega Genesis came out before the Super Nintendo. So like, I had my own Sega Genesis, and that's where like I had my own games. My own games were like Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, and Sonic the Hedgehog, and Sonic 2, and Sonic 3, I believe. I think those all came out on the Genesis. And then I had the Sega CD, and then I had the Sega Dreamcast. The Dreamcast was like Sega was like my thing. Nintendo was my mom's thing. Like, we probably would have got a GameCube eventually had my mom not met my stepdad. Because when my stepdad moved into the house, he brought in a PlayStation, like the PlayStation 1. And with the PlayStation 1, that's when I played like my first RPG in the form of, shit, what What was that thing? What was the name of that game? Not Chrono Trigger, because that was a different platform. What, Chrono Cross? Was that it? The other one? I don't remember, because it was so long ago and I didn't beat it. I know I didn't beat that game because I didn't understand that game, but I knew it was my first RPG because I know I had to read a bunch, and I knew it had like these like really cool like I didn't know what anime was at the time, but they were like, it was like anime inspired because obviously it's the same guy who did Dragon Ball Z. I knew what Dragon Ball Z was. Like, I used to watch that on Saturday mornings. I knew what Dragon Ball Z was, and I knew this looked a lot like Dragon Ball Z. So I thought that was like really cool. So I got into that game, even though I didn't get into that game to a point to where I could beat that game. First RPG that I played where I could actually get into the game was Final Fantasy VIII. And while I didn't beat that game either, because like the finer points of combat in that game eluded me. Like I said, I was like 10 or something. I was 8. Yeah, I was 8. So yeah, the finer points of combat eluded me. There was just no way I could beat that game like on my own, and I didn't have friends to play with because like I just didn't have friends that were into that kind of stuff. When I was that little, my friends they had Nintendo 64s, and they played like Mario 64. They played all the, and like Killer Instinct was on the Super Nintendo. Yeah, they played a lot more fighting games and Mario 64 than I did. And I was playing I played Super Metroid on the Super Nintendo. Didn't get super far into that either because, like I said, it was just more complicated of a game than I could really grasp. And I also played, like I said, Final Fantasy VIII, which, like I said again, was still more complicated than I could grasp. But those are still games that I have fun, just running around in and just having random encounter battles. And I thought that, not I thought, but my mom thought that since those games made me read a bunch, that they were gonna be better for me. So it was cool. And then flash forward a little while, and I got a Game Boy Color for Christmas, and that's when I played Pokemon Gold for the first time. It wasn't Gold, it was Silver. I played Pokemon Silver. I eventually got all of the Pokemon games, whatever, but the first one I played was Silver, and I remember it being amazing because this was the first time in a game where there was no I know there was a predetermined path, but I could take that path however I wanted. I wasn't forced to have a certain party member or anything. I got to pick whatever Pokemon I wanted, and that was so appealing to me. And when I didn't like a Pokemon anymore, which is as rude as that sounds, when I didn't want to have a Pokemon anymore, I could just get rid of it, and it didn't matter. And it felt so liberating because it was so unlike other games I had played up until that point. And so then I played literally just nothing but Pokemon for a couple years of my life until we got a PlayStation 2. And then when we got a PlayStation 2, things started to pick up for me. I actually started to beat games. And those games were Jak and Daxter, Jak 2 and Jak 3. I beat those games I got Jak and Daxter pretty late. I got Jak and Daxter right before Jak 2 came out, and then I got Jak 2 pretty late too. But I got Jak 3 the week it came out, and I beat it that week. Those games were awesome. That's the core of my action platforming knowledge right there. What else was on PlayStation 2? Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X was the first JRPG that I beat, and I thought it was amazing. Going back and looking at it again, it was less amazing than I remember. But at the time, I thought it was like the best game ever. I also played Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. I also played Chain of Memories and beat them. I beat all these games. And I didn't like Chain of Memories because it was on a Game Boy Advance, and I thought that was like, what the hell? And like, I just never, after that, I never played a Kingdom Hearts game on like another platform. Because I was like, fuck this. No, never again. Never again, Square Enix and Disney. Screw you guys. Release games on real platforms. So I played Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. Also played the like HD remix that came out on the PlayStation 3. And I had the PlayStation 2 version of Chain of Memories also, which I don't even know why I got that. Like, I played like 15 minutes of that, and then it was like, what am I doing? This is like the same damn game. I mean, it looked cool because it looks basically the same as Kingdom Hearts 2, but it was Chain of Memories, and I was like, this is cool, but yeah, there's just no reason to play this. And I really didn't have like a fighting game on the PlayStation 2, not because I didn't like fighting games. Like I had Soul Blade on the PlayStation 1, and we played that game like a lot, like a ridiculous amount. On the PlayStation 2, eventually, when I started getting more friends that kind of diverged from Nintendo, because like a lot of my friends, like, they got GameCubes, and they were playing like they had GameCubes and they were playing stuff like Custom Robo, Super Smash Brothers Melee. And like, I just never got into any of that because the only Nintendo games I had after Super Nintendo were handheld games. It was like Pokemon. It was like my only Nintendo game after Super Nintendo. So I played... Shit, what was I even talking about just now? Completely lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, so we just played a lot of Soul Blade, and then when I started getting other friends who like had PlayStation games, people who would like come over my house and like not be upset that I had a PlayStation, they had to get used to PlayStation controls, people who had played PlayStation before. Then we started getting into like the Naruto Ultimate Ninja series and like the Dragon Ball Z Budokai series, and those games are like pretty solid. Like the first two Budokai games were like phenomenal. The third one was a bit of a cash-in because it just had like basically a bunch of reskin characters. The first two were like pretty unique. Ultimate Ninja 1, 2, 3, and 4, like the two-dimensional Ultimate Ninjas, all solid games. And like, I did play a little bit of like the Budokai Tenkaichi stuff. I didn't really like it because the controls were like all over the place. And I played Ultimate Ninja Storm 2, and I didn't get to play Storm 1 because I just never got it. And I knew it had like a really limited character selection, and I just didn't even want to deal with that. Like, after having like 30 or 40 characters in Ultimate Ninja 4, I didn't want to like basically downgrade back down to 10 characters or whatever in Ultimate Ninja Storm. So I played Ultimate Ninja Storm 2. I haven't played any Ultimate Ninja Storm since. And not because I didn't like the game. It's more just because I just don't play fighting games anymore. It's kind of that simple. Also, around that time, I got my first laptop. And with that, I started playing MapleStory. This is like, I guess like 2007 at this point. Like, I started playing MapleStory basically like the year that game launched. Not only was it like my first Korean game, Like my first, like, yeah, Korean game. It was also my first MMO, and it was 2-dimensional. So, and it was literally like designed for laptops, not even keyboard and mouse. Like, it was designed to be played with the arrow keys and whatever other buttons you wanted to just have, whatever keys you wanted, plus the arrow keys. That was basically the game. And I played like so much of that. It was free to play, and it wasn't. I mean, it was pay to win because the entire game basically was a grind fest. Like, once you got to the max level, there was nothing to do in the game. But it could take literally years to hit max level in that game. So the game itself was nothing but a grind fest. It was totally awkward. I wouldn't play a game like that ever again. But, okay, now I'm not going to say I would play a game like that ever again. I still play Maple Story every once in a while. But it was just like, oh my goodness, why is there so much grinding? But I played it so much and I had friends who were into it, so it was like, oh, sweet. But I'll pick this conversation up some other time. So I just got to school and I kind of in a hurry, got to get in there. So see you later.